um, and so we can share this later. But yeah, let me step back for a second before diving into details. On the call, obviously, Ajit is here. Everybody knows Ajit. He has been driving this thing and on top of it from day one. I also wanted to introduce Andy Walton from Atlantic Broadband, as well as Nadine Heinen, who you all will get to know as you dive into this program. Um, so with that, let me jump into there's Nadine. The Atlantic Broadband context. Um, want to be clear here. The design that we're after is really for district leadership. If you have questions of Atlantic, that you would reach out to Nadine. Things may come up if they are sort of systemic. Multiple districts are having same kinds of questions that we haven't thought about yet. Nadine will reach out to Ajit and me, and we'll help troubleshoot. Um, but by design, we do not want families contacting Nadine or Andy or anyone sort of in Atlantic. They're in the leadership team. Really, we would want the families, once they get connected, to follow the normal channels of talking with technical support at Atlantic Broadband. So that's the intent of the sort of support. Um, but before we get to the point of installations, we want to sort of talk about some next steps. Um, and I'll dive in here and Ajit, Andy, and Nadine, feel free to jump in. Um, the next steps that we want to take with the program are really finding out which homes are serviceable. And when we say serviceable, what we mean is that they're ready to be connected to Atlantic Broadband. The invitation that Ajit sent out to all of you, and email that went out to all of you, is because you're in that footprint of Atlantic service. But there could be some outliers. We want to make sure that all of those addresses are serviceable. And so in order to do that, we're going to ask you to share with Atlantic directly anonymous student data. So you should not include, nor does anyone want you to include, student names in the file that you'll share. We do strongly suggest that you create a sort of fake program ID. So do not use the SACID. Create a code on your end that you can decode and know who the student is. But do not share that with Atlantic. Um, we're also asking that when you share student level data, and again, this is just for serviceability to make sure that they can be connected, don't combine multiple students. So I'll give you an example. If you have, the Jones family or the Vasquez family, and there are 3 kids who go to your schools in the same school, different school, but in your same district, please include each one of those as a separate record. We want to know how many kids are getting connected in each address. One row in your spreadsheet per student is what we're looking for. Um, and please, and this is important, send data on all of your students. They may have accounts already with Atlantic or with some different provider. They may have been connected and engaged in remote learning throughout the spring. It doesn't matter. We really want data on all students, so we've got a good sense of who's connected, who isn't connected. Um, the specific fields, and we've got the distribution list that we used to invite you to this meeting. We will follow up and send a sample template, but the fields that we're looking for are on screen here. And this is the district, what district the student is in, their program student ID. Again, I want to emphasize, we do not want the SACID, but a specific ID that corresponds to the SACID that you can decode. Their first and second addresses. So, and sorry for the duplication here, but address 1 and 2. So say, for example, 123 Main Street, address 1, and address 2 would be apartment 3B, something like that. If necessary, if it's just a street address, that's fine as well. The street name, the city and town, and then the zip. So getting this spreadsheet to Atlantic, again, it's not identifiable, so it's fine to transmit. Many districts are Google districts, so if you want to create a spreadsheet, a Google sheet, and then share it with Nadine, that will work. Make sure you get it to them and they confirm back that they've received it, and then you can shut down that share. But because this is really not identifiable student data, you should be safe to transfer it over. But again, emphasize here, no personally identifiable data in that spreadsheet. I'm going to pause there. Any Ajit or Andy or Nadine, any comments about the spreadsheet at this point that we're discussing?
That's good on our end. I think, for the kind of fake ID, our team said that if it's coming over in a spreadsheet, sometimes alphanumeric works better than strictly numeric for that ID. So just a note, we can manage with either, but that was mentioned from our team.
Good.
And just Doug, just the only point I want to add is the reason why we're saying all, just to emphasize that point, is that we really want a full accounting of connectivity needs of all our students. And if you're in a district that perhaps is serviced by multiple cable providers, you may not know exactly which kid is under which is serviced by which provider. So we felt like it would be cleanest to just send everybody and get a full accounting of what the need is, really from the provider's perspective. So if they come back and say that we don't service X, Y, or Z student, that's fine, because perhaps they're serviced by another provider. So we really just want to do a full accounting of who's there, because they can be covered under this initiative. So we just want to maximize the likelihood that we have more of our students getting broadband connectivity.
Terrific. So really good points. Following the download of that spreadsheet from each of you as district leaders, Atlantic they're going to do some research and confirm the serviceable addresses, and they'll provide that information back to you at the district level. You can then decode and get a sense of which district or which households are serviceable. There may be, there almost certainly will be instances where Atlantic is going to say, these families already have service, they're in good standing, they're not part of this program. The program is really focused on those families that do not have internet connectivity and need a connection. So to be clear about that, the feedback that you get will from Atlantic will include the information about families that that need a connection that don't currently have an Atlantic broadband connection, and that's sort of the scope of this with regard to working with Atlantic. At that point, you will have that list of families, and you'll be able to go ahead and notify them that service is available for them. You will not have to set up installation for them as district leaders. All you have to do is provide them with the proper handoff to Atlantic and indicate that they can contact Atlantic for for that service installation. So we're really trying to make this as far-reaching as possible to connect as many kids as possible, but also easy for you, so you're not in charge of fulfillment. At this point, really the interaction should be purely between the families and Atlantic to coordinate the installation of service. They shouldn't be bothering you with too many problems or too many questions at this point. So that's the plan. Um, are there anything else with the rest of serviceability and setup that my colleagues want to add to this workflow here?
Doug, I asked folks to put some questions in, so some are coming in.
Okay.
And Andy, you could check the questions as well. So one is, is there sample language letter to send to students to tell them why Atlantic will be reaching out to them? Actually, it's going to be the other way around, meaning that once we do the serviceability check and we determine that X number of households are eligible to receive service under this program, then, and Andy and Doug and Nadine, please correct me if I'm wrong, I think the ask is that the district notify those families that they can contact Atlantic to initiate the setup of the service, whether it be through the sending of a self-install kit or some other method. Am I correct there?
That's right. So we will provide a phone number specifically for this program that you'll be able to share with school families, and then they will then reach out to Atlantic Broadband, and we'll take care, as Doug said, of all the fulfillment so that you don't have to get in the middle of it and be involved with that. So we can certainly describe the service and make sure you have the information that you need to explain it, but you'll simply be explaining the program and providing the school family with easy notification to Atlantic Broadband to express their interest, and then we'll take it from there.
And Andy, just to expand on Randy's question here, I think it would be good to just frame that in an email that they can just cut and paste and send it out. Like that just says, congratulations, you're eligible to receive high-speed internet. We've determined blah, blah, blah. Please reach out to Atlantic. You can get 25, 5, whatever, 35, whatever the service is for 1 year, paid by the state of Connecticut. Just kind of like a template letter. I think that's a good.
We would be happy to provide that. We will provide a template letter.
Perfect.
It's a good idea.
I think then they can.
So, and I would think like the who get that. It's a great idea. Maybe as Atlantic, as you receive those lists of student addresses, that'll be your point of contact for responding back and with the list of serviceable families, as well as the language that they should be that those district leaders should be using to communicate with those families. If you could sort of wrap all that up, that would be great.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think it's important also because because we want the family to initiate this contact, right, to Atlantic, because that means they're taking the proactive step of having Atlantic connect with them and provide the self-install or go there and do whatever they need to do. So it's got the family kind of opting into the program. So there's that proactive action. But I think if we have a standard template letter, we can include some of the caveat language too. What happens after the 1 year? Like those kinds of pieces can be included in a communication that goes from the district. So I think a sample letter is a good idea, but we absolutely want the family initiating that contact. All right, then there's another question. What if there is no existing line to the home?
So in terms of this entire process that we're talking about right now with regard to serviceability, we will determine, which households can be serviced, and we will share that back to the school district. We will also indicate which households reside in the service area, but may have some other issue. It won't be many because the vast majority of the area that we service, we can service virtually all the households with some exceptions. We will identify what the exceptions are so that we can explore some other options for them. But we'll deal with those on a case-by-case basis, but we'll provide information for each one of those identified households.
And part of this Everybody Learns initiative, we'll be working with Atlantic and the other carriers if for some reason there's no way of reaching the family. We're not throwing up our hands and walking away. We want to find a solution. So that could be, it could come in different solutions, but these will be outliers. We're pretty confident. So we'll deal with those on a case-by-case basis. We want to make sure that every student that needs a connection gets one.
Exactly.
The next one's on timing, starting school on September 8th. When will we have these letters out? I think the process starts with the district sending the data to Atlantic. So if you can get that to them tomorrow or later today, then I think that begins the process for them to match it to their service, to their database to check who's eligible, serviceability, all that kind of stuff. I think we're going to try. Everybody's going to try to work as fast as we can, and we do think that the cable broadband is the longer term solution for families. So I think we'll work as fast as we can, and we have Atlantic's commitment to do that. So we appreciate that, Andy and Nadine from your side. So I'd say if the sooner you can get them the addresses, the better.
So I just backed up one slide so everybody can get Nadine's contact information. Nadine, put your seatbelt on and get ready for those spreadsheets. They're on their way, I'm sure.
I want to know where you got that picture.
I did it.
Dug that one up somewhere.
The Google search. That's
okay.
which. Yeah, we all look. We all look wonderful on Google.
So the email address is, it's on the screen. Heinen, HEINEN at atlanticbb.com. So Heinen at atlanticbb.com. And are we sending a template? I think the fields that we had, I think that is pretty much the template. So just use that set of fields and that's it. And maybe Doug, we could just copy and paste that into the chat as well. So we could just, that's really it.
That's easy enough, and quite frankly, we can shoot off a quick email, so it's a click away after we get off here. Because I know that there are folks that, for one reason or another, were on our distribution list but couldn't join us right now, and we don't want to wait for them to sift through, listen to the recording of this if that even happens. So we'll send a follow-up email. We put together some FAQs. Which I guess technically it's not an FAQ because you haven't asked them yet, but like probably frequently asked questions that we can take a run through here that may address some of the issues that you're thinking about. So the first one is, what's included. So the state brokered with Atlantic to, this is for a fixed cable. So just to be clear, this is not a cellular hotspot. This is a connection to a home, an apartment, a household. The families will be receiving speeds up to 30 megabits down, 5 megabits up, and that the installation, the router does include wireless access. And what that means is that the Chromebook or the iPad or the device will not have to be wired into that router. It will support a wireless connection. Importantly, too, students that get connected through this program will be able to, when they're outside of their homes and there is an Atlantic hotspot somewhere nearby, their account will let them log on to that as well. So that's another nice feature of this sort of roaming capability where those public hotspots are available. I think the eligibility we've covered already, but just to be clear, the families that are living at serviceable addresses that don't have current Atlantic accounts qualify for the program. As we said before, families that have been able to afford this, have been connected, we're not taking over their accounts. We're simply looking to connect students who live in families that don't have a connection. I can move on from this. Any other points to underscore, Ajit, Andy, Nadine? We are looking like we've got plenty of time during this session for any other questions, so we'll keep
I would
moving.
just
actually had
point
one.
out that the just a quick point on the 30 meg download is a really good speed that is above the national standard for what is classified as broadband. So that will really deliver the speed that households need to do distance learning.
Just going back to the layout or the template, just one question, and to those on the call, you know, we're moving as fast as we can here. So we met this morning and put this together. Doug put this together like a couple of hours ago. So we're really moving as fast as we can here. So the one question I had was the street. Are you looking for the street name in a separate column, or is that just address 1, address 2, city, zip? That's really
So
it.
if what we're looking for is to have the address number in a separate column, if possible. If it can't be, that's fine. So it depends on the capability of the school in question. If it has to be combined together with the street name, we can manage with that. But the more separation in that data, the better. But if there is an apartment number, we want to make sure that we capture that as well. So that's address 1 and address 2, but the number of the address and the street name.
Okay, yeah, I think it'll be probably these data systems are set up to give you like a address, you know, 450 Columbus, that'll be address 1. Suite 547 will be address 2. So as long as your guys can separate out Columbus from the first address 1, I guess that would be the easiest for folks to do right away. And if we try to separate that street out, I just don't want to get hung up on sending it to you in a set format quickly. That's really what I was trying to.
We want it to be easy. So if that works best for the schools, then that's what we'll work with, and we'll make it happen.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. We appreciate the partnership here. So.
Let me jump on to the next, and we don't have that many of these FAQs, so we should be able to have plenty of time for other questions. But I think we covered, or no, we haven't covered this one. So what about families that are in arrears because of hardship? So say, for example, they've been a Atlantic customer, but you know, one of the parents lost their job. They're having to make cuts within utilities, things that they pay for, they haven't paid, they're in arrears, those kinds of situations. So you know, Atlantic has graciously looked at that as a separate account. So family's account is separate. If they're in arrears and if there's a hardship going on, we're still going to connect those families to through this program. So again, we're sort of looking at 3 different scenarios. One is the sort of families that have never been connected, they get connected through this program. Families that are paying in good standing, obviously can afford it. Not obviously, but we think they can afford it. They're not eligible. It's this middle ground of families that, you know, for one reason or another, they have not been able to pay. We're not going to penalize the students in those families because for one reason or the other, the parents aren't paying. We will include them. This may seem like diving into the weeds, but we want you to know this in case these kinds of questions come up at your level as district leaders. You know, mechanically, Atlantic is going to sort of look at these as 2 separate accounts. They're not wiping the personal account balance. They're just going to set up a separate account. And then, you know, sort of a privacy question, what is Atlantic doing with the student data? It's on our agreement with Atlantic that that they're that they're not doing anything with the student data, not sharing it or selling it to third parties. In fact, there really shouldn't be any student data that gets transmitted to Atlantic. The only thing that that Atlantic will be a family point of contact to set up the account. That'll be obviously an adult. So there's no sharing of student data through this program. And I think that's all we have for sort of the ones that we could think of in advance. But I know the chat has been active, so we could jump over there and take a look at other questions that have come up in the meantime.
So I see Dennis's question about rolling to account for new students. So and clearly you're in the midst of starting the new school year. So question, I guess this is for all folks, and Dennis, you can, I don't know if you can unmute yourself, but when do you think you'll have a pretty decent account of all your students for the 2021 school year?
For us specifically, we're a military school, and by also the nature of the town, we have a pretty decent transient population. So we do have a lot of students that come and go, and military maybe one group that we have to deal with in a certain way, and then there's just a transient group that we have in another way, because we've had students who start with us that are non-military, and then they go live with the other parent in a different town for a couple months, and then they come back, and we're actually moving those student records back and forth. So I was just curious about how do we pick up new students and families to us regardless of their situation as they come and go, because on average we almost enroll 300 and something kids multiple times a year, just on the nature of population. Most of that's because of the sub base and the way the military moves people around, but it was just, I just didn't know how that would happen.
Yeah, I think I think what I'm going to say is I don't like to make policy on the spot. So I think Doug and I have talked about this, and we have to go back and sort of think about how long we can keep sort of this rolling situation open. We talked about an October 1 kind of time frame up to October 1. But but I don't want to sort of say anything official. I think I want to go back and revisit this. But so if you could do but I imagine you have the bulk of your new student enrollment already set up in your SISs.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have a population of a certain amount of students, but throughout that school year, that number will relatively stay the same, but the names will change because people come in and out of the district.
Yeah, and this is not unique to Groton by any stretch. I've talked with Susan and Mike about this. This is not unique to Groton. I mean, Groton has the unique military angle to this, but every district has some level of mobility and some level of movement for whatever reason. So totally get that, and I think that's a legitimate question. I just want to just go back and workshop this a little bit more with Andy and Doug and sort of come up with a more firm answer. I think for now, what we're saying is do the best you can with your current student population, and let's get that going. And we'll come back to you shortly with an answer of how to handle this kind of rolling issue. I know you have hotspots. Everybody has hotspots in the mix as well. So that's again a solution that's available. But we'll get back to you on sort of this rolling question. Yeah, I see Jay's point too. Navy does a big move in October. Yep, I think we need to have an answer on how we're going to handle this rolling situation. Maybe there's some kind of staggered schedule where we do these matches, but we'll really have to go back and look at it because we have really no sense of what is the scope of the need. I think you've all estimated what the need is, but now the rubber is actually hitting the road. You're going to send addresses. We're going to actually verify against that. And so, that'll give us a sense of like, what is the budget we have for this and what we can actually, what is the extent of the fulfillment and what is left and that type of thing. So we'll be able to better use that to sort of craft a better answer on what the rolling thing should be. So that's why I don't think we're in a position to give a firm answer. Just do the best you can with your current enrollment, and then we'll go from there. What happens if a student moves out of district? And Andy, I think we have a monthly billing situation set up. So
Right.
really, I think it'll take care of itself with Atlantic, where if the student moves and that service gets canceled, we don't get billed for future subscriptions, if you will, for that household. I think that's how that'll be taken care of.
Yeah. Yeah. So we would expect that during the course of the school year that there would be normal move activity that would occur. So students moving out that started in the program, we typically would receive that information from the customer directly. But certainly if the school district knew of something and wanted to simply provide it to Atlantic Broadband, it doesn't hurt to do that if it's known. Otherwise, we would pick it up in our normal transactional activity at the household level.
So basically,
And-
you'd get it from the family.
Correct.
If the district doesn't get to you. Okay.
Yep.
I think we've gotten through most of the issues. And we can end early and get the template out early too.
I just put the fields in the chat as well, just so that Nadine can get bombarded real soon. So that we can get this going. Yeah, you're welcome. I think it's just so everybody knows too, Atlantic is first out of the gate here, so they are the first company here. So and you are the first cable call we're having. So kudos to Atlantic for getting everything set up with us.
Well, we are Nadine and I are really pleased to be working with your team, Ajit and Doug, and at the state level, as well as with all of the schools in our footprint to make this happen. We really are committed to this distance learning initiative for families. We're really behind it. We think it's an important need, and we're committed to making it a success. So we really do look forward to working with all of you to help these students at the start of the school year and throughout the rest of the school year.
Terrific. Well, just as a follow-up, we'll send Nadine's contact information. We'll send the template fields, and if it renders quickly enough, then we'll also send a link to this recording in all its polished splendor. For future reference, if you want to do a flip video approach and go back to the parts that you couldn't remember, it will be there for you. But we're excited about this. District leaders, you have done an amazing job regarding distance learning already, and we know that you have for sure a challenging fall coming up ahead of you no matter what happens. So hopefully this should take a little bit of the stress off and help you concentrate on teaching and learning. So thank you for all the work that you're doing. Any other last questions or comments from anyone?
I just have a curiosity question, if you will. Has there been any sort of heads up to the folks that live in the school districts that a program is coming? Since it came from the state, maybe was there a public announcement, or will this just catch them by surprise?
There was a formal press conference and press release. How many people are watching those press conferences and reading those releases is anybody's guess, but word does travel quickly. I don't.
Especially when it's free, right?
Yeah.
Something
well,
free.
If anyone from a district level wants to comment on that, that would be interesting. I'm not sure if word is getting out.
We actually in Groton are part of Atlantic Broadband. That's a part of our service area. So we're obviously very interested in this, and actually started trying to work with the regional group. So I'm really happy this showed up. But if I was following what you guys were saying earlier, it sounds like we're going to send you this information that you're going to send us back the names and addresses of who qualifies. I would then take that template to notify them that they are able to get to that program. So it's not just everybody looking for it. So I think that would take care of that notice piece that we're just discussing.
We'll provide, when we say template, I think there are two templates we're talking about here. One is the template that Ajit pasted into the chat, which is for the data, the household data. The second piece, which will come soon, will be the content for a communication that the schools can send to the families that explains the program, what we're trying to achieve, and how to get in touch with Atlantic Broadband to make the arrangements to get installed.
And will you guys provide us with a list of who's actually joined into the program?
We can do that. We will be tracking all of the households that sign up for service under the program, and we'll be able to provide ongoing updates both to the state and to the school districts.
That would be good, because then we can go back out to the families who hadn't taken advantage of the program for whatever reason and try to maybe re-explain to them. Maybe they don't understand it. It's
right.
a different language. It's a language barrier issue. We can start looking at all those.
That's a good point.
Well, good. If any other questions come up, everyone knows how to find Ajit and me, but we'll be sending the follow-up materials and links shortly. So thank you all for joining this afternoon, and have a great fall.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care.